Yeah, that's what we're going back to.
Because using that one, you don't have to do calculated.
Right. That's exactly right, yeah. We just do what
Procedure, yeah, first one.
This one?
Yep.
By the way, are you coming today? And he's like,
Basically,
what? I was like, the thing I
put
sent
together
you.
like a little presentation talking about
It didn't even matter. She
I was thinking, I was like, man, this is
so she's already.
I'll try. I'm still processing that.
yeah, not all of it, but at least that portion of it about making a decision. Don't get it. They just say,
Right. It's preferred for us too. Might as well just use the same notes we had before. Maybe ours got 3 templates out now. Notices. Our phones are gonna be blowing up. Thanks for having me.
thank you, thanks for coming.
Yeah. There we go. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to. Let's try it again. No, they just pointed. Yes. Good morning and welcome to the April 9th, 2025 informal meeting of the Savannah-Chatham County Board of Public Education. This is an informal meeting. This meeting is information only. There are no votes taken during this meeting. Welcome everyone that came. Thank you for being here this morning. We are going to skip the board member update and get on to our strategic priority 1, student growth and achievement, with charter reports on Oglethorpe Charter and Coastal Empire Montessori Charter School.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We were asked to do this every year, our annual report, and we are kind of doing twofold. We report on last year's performance as well as kind of bring you highlights of what's taken place this school year. So this is just a snapshot of Oglethorpe, how we compared last year in math with Savannah-Chatham as well as the state. This is a snapshot where we were functioning at in ELA, and naturally we want to see a lot more green and a lot more of the, I guess it's a beige color moving right and eliminate all the red. We were very successful in doing that last school year in our algebra concepts, our 9th grade class. We were one of 11 schools.
That's not being displayed.
Oh,
Let me see if I can fix this.
sorry. Okay. I will start over here
all
so
good.
you all can see this. This is a snapshot in mathematics from last year. Here is a snapshot of where we were at in ELA compared to Savannah-Chatham County School in the state. During our clarification process, we really honed in with members that were on the panel with the BOE because we were asked to speak about rigor in the classroom, and the expectation at Oglethorpe is that we teach to those high achievers and we try to pull everybody else up. This is a great example of what can be accomplished doing that. We were one of 11 schools that were presented a banner by the state superintendent, and we did quite well with our ninth grade classes. The teachers that are pictured here, Miss Rowland on the right-hand side of your picture, she has been working with me for the past 23 years. I hired her as a first-year teacher at Tompkins Middle School, and when I got to Oglethorpe, I brought her with me, and she's done a phenomenal job in math over the years. Next to her is Courtney Verdry. Since we split the math curriculum with one of the teachers doing the algebra concepts, the other one doing the geometry concepts, these folks really brought it home for us this last year. We were also, on the other picture, we are one of 2 schools that are NOAA-recognized Ocean Guardian schools, which has been a big deal for us at Oglethorpe with our marine science program. Our operational performance, our enrollment, we had 149 sixth graders, 151 seventh graders, 251 eighth graders. We had a 92.9% attendance rate. Our caseload with our special education students is 52. As far as discipline, we've had an 84% drop in referrals in 2025 versus 2024. I attribute that to our administrative restructuring, where we put an assistant principal on every teaching team. Prior to that, we had one assistant principal was over discipline, and it was just too much for her. She was overwhelmed with the amount of discipline issues that were taking place. This year, we are operating with a 92% positivity ratio. That's the communication between the teacher and the students. Pictured below, that's part of the PBIS team. That's Mr. Vogel. He has assigned the big picture responsibility as far as taking care of our PBIS. We are awarding Janae Cummings, that's one of our math teachers in this picture, because of the amount of positive feedback that she's given the kids versus negative feedback. This is tracked through PowerSchool and the behavior app that all the teachers have on their phone. And it's actually, we finally have a handle and we know what we're doing with PBIS, meaning that we operate like it's a token economy. The kids earn scholar dollars. They use those scholar dollars for monthly events, but the teachers are also awarded. So she's getting awarded a $50 gift card for her efforts. Our PBIS initiative is funded through the PTO, so they have a good supply of money to make sure the teachers as well as the kids are awarded. Our learning environment, we have 4 teaching teams. We have 2 math teachers, 2 LA teachers, 1 science and 1 social studies teacher per team. And when we got into our new building, and I know some of you have heard this before, because of the looping model that we initiated to get our enrollment up to 600, we had to add a whole lot more related arts offerings. And now, just like with theater, he actually is teaching film. So you might as well add another related arts offering to him. So, I think we offer probably more than any other middle school with the way we're structured as far as related arts. We have a big focus on leadership clubs. We have a strong, functioning National Junior Honor Society. Our FBLA has well over 100 members. The movers and the shakers that are all over the community are Titan Ambassadors. That is a very prestigious leadership club where these students have to audition with the faculty. They have to actually have good behavior, good grades, and be in good standing to be a part of that club. As far as clubs are concerned, every student in the school is involved in a club. We do this monthly. We started this in 1999, and we've continued this. I know some of these clubs that you may ask questions about. I know most of them, but some of them are kind of wonky. I don't know the answers to all of them. And here are our club offerings that are continued other school-wide activities. We do a monthly grill and chill sponsored by the Leadership Clubs, PBS Leadership Club, Cheerleaders and Athletics. That actually funds those clubs. It's been a very creative way to pump money into those extracurricular things that these kids do. We have monthly PBIS events for the kids. We also recognize the teachers monthly, and then we bring Kona Ice in and Jeremiah's Ice in on a monthly basis. A lot of this stuff that we do, this is post-pandemic, trying to get these kids off the screens and get them to socialize with each other and communicate with each other. If you came to Oglethorpe in the morning time at 6 o'clock all the way until we dismissed to start school at 7:40, we start receiving kids. These kids are glued to screens at that time. We're okay with it during that time frame, but we have cell phone lockers for every classroom. And once they get to the classroom, we get them to lock those cell phones up. So our grill and chill is probably our second most favorite activity by the student body. But the clubs is what we get feedback from year in and year out when we do our survey with our kids of what they think is one of the best things that we do with them. Our athletic offerings, we participate in football, boys basketball, girls soccer, softball, girls basketball, cross-country, track, volleyball, and boys soccer. This year, we won the city championship in football, and we also won the city championship in boys basketball. As far as human resources and financial management, this is how we're set up at Oglethorpe. We have 24 core academic teachers, 15 related arts teachers, 5 sped teachers, and then there are the listings of all the support staff that we have employed at Oglethorpe. All evaluations for all teachers at this point, as well as last year, are completed. A financial snapshot for Oglethorpe. We're in good financial shape. We have $3 million in our reserve accounts. We also max out our FTE funding every year. Our initiative moving forward, and we've got folks lined up for next year, is to get everybody that is hired, as well as the people that don't have their gifted endorsed, not only for the pedagogy that they'll receive during that training, but also for funding. Oglethorpe Charter School has had 24 consecutive years of a clean financial audit with no material findings. I know last year we had a situation where some of our governing board members did not complete all their training. Last year, 100% of all the governing board folks completed their training, and we're well on track this year to get everybody completely trained. And that is it. I'll accept any questions.
Ms. Hall.
Thank you. The gifted endorsements, you're saying that your budget supports the coursework for the teachers who are newly hired?
We're using Title 2A money to do that. So this is money that's given to us through the grant portion of that program. So it's not actually, it's Oglethorpe money that comes to us, but not from.
I see.
Yeah.
And about how many courses, that's about what, maybe 6 courses to become gifted endorsed? Because I think that's a fabulous way to improve the teaching skills and the scope of learning that the children receive.
Yes,
from
ma'am.
a teacher.
I think in some programs it's that amount. There are about 3 different avenues. I know the school system offers a gifted cohort for teachers in the system to be able to get gifted certified. RESA also does, and we're going through RESA so our folks can do it online.
Okay, that's excellent. The other question, I want to know a little more about your geometry and algebra setup. You have 2 math teachers per team.
We do.
So how much of the day does that take, and how do you have that set up?
Every kid has a double block of math, as well as a double block of ELA. in every year that Oglethorpe's been in operation prior to this year, what we would do with math is we would split the curriculum. One teacher would teach the geometry concepts, the other teacher would teach the algebra and statistics portion of the curriculum. This year, because we had a lot of pushback, more so from our ELA teachers, because we also split that curriculum with a separate reading and writing teacher, we decided to split their caseload. And what we did is every math teacher was given half of the kids on that teaching team. So roughly our cohorts are 150. So now they have 75 kids that they're dealing with, and then they're teaching the entire curriculum. ELA teachers, we did the same thing, because if you're grading 150 essays versus 75, that's an enormous amount on the workload. So this is the first year that we're trying this with our two math teachers and our two ELA teachers. I think we're going to be quite successful with it, because we went to a block schedule where they have more time in the classroom to make sure that the kids learn the concepts and can spend more time on the concepts.
Okay, let me just follow up. You're saying you originally had a geometry teacher and an algebra teacher.
Yes, ma'am.
But now they not only teach geometry, they teach the ELA also?
No, ma'am.
Oh.
No, we have two ELA teachers and two math teachers on every teaching team.
Oh,
So
okay.
The math teachers are responsible for the entire curriculum this year, whereas in past years, they are only responsible for teaching half the standards, half the curriculum.
I see. I'd be interested, it sounds like you had a winner, but the pushback was that the load was too much. So that's the pushback you got, that's why you decided to change that.
Yes, ma'am.
It'll be interesting to see, you know.
Yeah, we're hoping for good success with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Smith, Dr. Hoskins Brown, then Dr. Howard Hall.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation. Got a quick question for you on page 5, I believe. It talks about the 4 teaching teams, 6th, 7th, and 7th looping. Can you describe what 7th looping is?
Absolutely. When the school system voted on eSPLOST, which was the very first eSPLOST for the new schools, it was written into the very first charter contract that if eSPLOST was ever passed in Chatham County, that Oglethorpe would get a replacement school, which we did. We were one of the last ones built on that first cycle. And my governing board president at the time was really fighting for us not to go above 400, because we were a small schools model on Stiles and Gwinnett. The school was built to house 600 students. So in order to not mess up our 6-person teaching team and that double block of math and double block of ELA, we decided to hire an entirely new teaching team so we could keep everything intact as far as our instructional model. We called that our looping team. And so what takes place with our looping team is they take in a cohort of 150 students. They stay with those students in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, then they loop back down and start the loop again. So we're starting about our 4th or 5th loop. And I will tell you, those teachers and those students, by the time they're in 8th grade, which right now we have 2 8th grade teaching teams. So we have 300 kids out of 600 in 8th grade. It's our strongest team. There's some pretty deep connections made by the teachers and the students, as well as the parents. So there's a distinct advantage to doing that.
Dr. Hoskins Brown?
Thank you, and congratulations on your successes. I have a question about your teaching to high achievers, about discipline, your clubs, and a comment about the Ocean Ambassadors School. So on the teaching to high achievers, in your algebra data, the difference in performance with the district is really, really strong. There still is a really significant positive trend with ELA, but tell me, using that approach in ELA, what are kind of the difference in your outcomes, or what makes that more difficult, and how are you overcoming it? I mean, it's obviously still a challenge, and you're doing better in math than in English, but tell me more about what that looks like in English, and maybe what things that other schools can take from your process.
Well, I think we're, you know, and every year in and year out, we get kids, and we're using, used to would be map data. Now it's the testing that we're using to diagnose kids in the fall, winter, and spring. We see consistently kids coming to us in sixth grade operating on a third grade reading level. Mm-hmm. It's different in math. They're coming to us and they're as sixth graders operating on a fifth grade reading level. So it's much easier for us to get them caught up in math and even accelerate them more in math than it is ELA.
Yep. But you're still experiencing more success in ELA than others are. So is it that early diagnostic and intervention? Is there a role of looping that complements with your instructional model that's helping make that progress?
I think it's a combination of a lot of that, and we've got in place for those students that are functioning below grade level, some really good remedial teachers in math and ELA. And so say, for example, a student is below grade level in ELA, we've got 3 related arts offerings that we force the kids to go into to get them caught up. We don't take away music, band, chorus, or some of the other fun classes. We only put them in one to get them caught up. And then we actually, once they're caught up, they get to go back into the other things. But band, chorus, and it used to be orchestra. We don't have orchestra anymore. Our year-long classes, we don't want to mess with that with them because parents pay for instruments and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you. On the discipline, was it just the PBIS that allowed you to see that drop in 2025? You said that, you know, you had a state of overwhelm in your team member, and then you have this drop, and you're using PBIS. Is that it?
Well, I mean, yes, in a nutshell, and basically what we've tasked these assistant principals to do is they remain in the hallway 95% of the time. They've got their computer on wheels, their laptop, and they've got walkie-talkies. If anything, and so you've got 2 wings at Oglethorpe, upstairs and downstairs, and so you've got essentially 2 assistant principals in the hall at all time within 20 to 30 feet of the classrooms because they're sitting in the middle of the hallway. So if anything pops off or goes crazy, the teachers, they open the door and it's dealt with immediately on the spot.
That is awesome. That is definitely a climate changer to have a AP in the hallway on a cow. Okay.
They also go, and we also had a huge uptick in fights in the cafeteria, on the playground. The assistant principals go they go with that team everywhere. And so we've had 0 fights in the cafeteria at breakfast or lunch this entire year. Maybe less than 5 on the playground, which for middle school, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, yeah. Thanks. I just have one more question and a comment. The different leadership clubs, there are a lot of clubs that appeal to a variety of interests. There are some schools that can't seem to get advisors for clubs. So do teachers advise more than one club? Is there any incentive, or how heavy is the lift for this? Obviously, it's not too heavy a lift because you have these active clubs going, but what would you share for others on how to get this level of activity for students?
I have one teacher that does 2 clubs, Ms. Rowland, the math teacher that we talked about. She does NJHS, National Junior Honor Society, and Beta Club. Okay. My FBLA advisor, which is one of the biggest clubs, he gets incentivized by CTAE. He gets funds for doing that. That's part of his, money incentive. The other folks, like our Titan Ambassadors, which is a very prestigious club, we give them stipends. We pay our teachers to do those clubs.
Okay, thank you. And my last comment is about the Ocean Ambassadors Program. I have heard really, really good things about that. Ocean Guardian School status for Oglethorpe. I've heard really, really good things about it from partners at the Georgia Aquarium. They were talking about it last year at Capitol Hill Ocean Week. And this is me just doing my job, just doing my job. They don't know I'm on school board here. And everywhere I have gone nationally where they've talked about it, an Ocean Guardian School, and they've brought up Oglethorpe, they've talked about how exceptional it is. And to the degree that Grays Reef is interested in trying to replicate that success. So Dr. Barnes, I owe you an email. I'm supposed to email you and introduce you to the folks who are trying to put that together for some of the other schools working with Grays Reef and using the Oglethorpe model. So thank you for that.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Thank you for your report. Excuse me. Put my chair up. We know that Oglethorpe is the only designated 6th through 8th grade school, charter school. We have some charter schools that serve K-5, others who do serve 6, 8. They have their feeder elementary level students. So with that question being, with that statement, you touched on it somewhat regarding Dr. Hoskin Brown's question. So what is your insight into the data performance, the performance of your rising 6th graders? What is your insight on the performance data regarding them? I know you did mention some enter into the 6th grade on a 3rd grade reading level. So Chatham County is your feeder, the entire county.
Correct, yes.
Right, so could you just kind of give us your insight on those rising 6th grade students?
Well, I guess most of our kids, they're, like you said, they come from Savannah-Chatham schools, and I would say well over 98% of them go back to the school system for high school. We see a huge trend with our athletes getting recruited, which they're not supposed to these private schools. I think we're seeing, good trends as far as some hardworking folks in the elementary sector in Savannah-Chatham County doing the best they can and sending us the best student that they can get prepared for us. When they get to us, it's our job to try to get them caught up. And historically speaking, we tend to do a pretty good job getting kids on grade level or close to grade level by 8th grade. And it's just through really working hard and heavy with them, especially in ELA and math.
Yes, Ms. Hall.
How do you get on the looping team? Is it a lottery, or you decide by my test scores, or how do you get on that team? Because it's kind of a premium team. It sounds like.
we realized the very first year that we started this, we had to try to make the traditional team and the looping team as close to as resemble each other as close as possible. Meaning, we tried to put identical males and females on each cohort. We tried to, and we still do this, we tried to split the special education population to where they have equal amount of caseloads on both teams. We did the same thing with the gifted cohorts. From time to time, we will get parents that request the looping team because they've had siblings that have gone through there. But typically, once we get the kids in, we don't have parents that are asking to, jump teams. With our advantage, if we have a situation where there's a personality conflict with a teacher and a student, if it's the looping grade level, we can move them, but we very seldom have to do that. So we try to make everything as close to the same as possible for both teams.
Okay. Well, to the extent that I support charter schools, the main reason I support them is because we are supposed to be using you as laboratories so that we can get ideas. So board members, I hope that some of these ideas, transfer over to us because they seem common sense and they seem doable, at least on a pilot level, that we could be doing some of these things in our school. And I don't think we use this opportunity of learning from the charter schools as best we can. So, Dr. Watts, I hope you agree that we can kind of look at this and see what could we transfer over. So thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so you know I was going to say something, right? Piggybacking on what Ms. Hall just said, what you said about never eliminating the arts from those kids' experience, we have to replicate. It's working.
Yeah, I will tell you, and I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah, go ahead.
we really push band. We push them all, but band and chorus in particular, because the folks that we've got in place there, it's research proven that those kids will do better in math. And so that's why we refuse to take them out.
Shout that
Yeah,
from the
so,
mountaintop.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is very encouraging. And I am glad that we are a school system that welcomes charter schools. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Have a great day. Thank you.
Now, Coastal Empire Montessori. Chocolate.
Okay, thanks. Good morning. It is nice to see everyone. I am Stephanie Babcock Wright from Coastal Empire Montessori. Miss Stephanie, nice to meet you. We're happy to be here today, not only to review our 2024 Chevron report with you, but also to share our progress at Coastal Empire Montessori since the last time we spoke. This meeting will be a great preface for the submission of our charter renewal petition this summer, which will, of course, incorporate vastly more detailed information and a great deal of data. In terms of our Chevron report, we are pleased to report our expected outcome of improvements in every domain, with 5 of the 7 measuring at the exceeds level. 4 of those 5 have scores of 100. We reported to you last year that we were addressing the gaps, and I hope you can see that we have. This is true even in the domains in which we still need improvement, the academic performance domains. Given our school's federal designation, we have no ability to increase our points in Domain 1 for 3 years, but we did increase in Domain 2. This year, our school made the Georgia Department of Education's progress list due to the increase in our math content mastery of 15% and our progress score, which went up nearly 28 points to 91. All year, we have been tracking our students' iReady performance and using our data workbook's algorithm to project our 2025 CCRPI content mastery. Through our middle of the year, known as MOY testing in iReady, our performance shows that SEMSIS will meet the targets for all students, though there are some subgroups that are currently projecting lower, such as our English learner students and our students with disabilities. Speaking of our student subgroups, let's take a look at our most current data on our student body. As you can see from this graph, about 45% of our students are served in our Tier 1 program. That is, in our general education classrooms, where they receive differentiated, individualized, or small group instruction using evidence-based Montessori and Georgia Standards of Excellence aligned curriculum. This 45% includes our Tier 1 students, our gifted students, and some of our students with 504 plans. We have 27.5% of our students served in Tier 2 of MTSS, and another 7% in Tier 3. 19% of our students have IEPs and are provided specially designed instruction. Given this, of critical importance for our ongoing school improvement work is adequate staffing in special education and collaboration with and support from our district partners in specialized instruction and in MTSS. I'd like to share some of our most impactful moves and initiatives so that you know what has changed at Coastal Empire Montessori. First, something the importance of which cannot be overstated is the positive effect of the new leadership of our SEMCO Board of Trustees. You will hear from Board Chair Atlee Fleming Prince in a moment, but he has done two critical things. One, he has made a true commitment to multifaceted support of the school, the staff, the work we do, and the work we still have to do. And two, he has been instrumental in the board's adoption of a 3-year targeted strategic plan, which has vastly improved clarity in our priorities and alignment in how we will get there. Second, we undertook a nationwide search last spring excuse me, to replace our director of academics with a new academic principal who has enhanced and focused duties on our school's academic program. Lindsay DiBernardo, who could not be here today with us, is a trained Montessorian, a former teacher, assistant director and curriculum coordinator of Montessori and other schools, a master's degree holder in teaching English as a second language, and a doctoral student in Montessori studies. She is committed to the Semsis family's pursuit of finding and perfecting the sweet spot for public Montessori. Other adjunct members of our school family have been invaluable over the course of this past year as well. The gift, I call it, that came with the state's CSI designation is the partnership of Godot through our school effectiveness specialist, Dr. Jaquetta Jenkins, and of First District RISA through our school improvement specialist, Ann Clayton. While they have guided and supported us through standards-centered school improvement, our strategic planning consultants from the Georgia Charter Schools Association have done the same thing on our strategic plan implementation and monitoring. And Lindsay and I are continually working on aligning and streamlining all of the work that ongoingly happens. To wrap up our critical initiatives, I'd like to share that we have once again made some substantial changes to our school's curriculum maps. Most of us have worked together for quite some time, and I know you have heard me talk about our aligned curriculum before. Truth be told, we have not quite gotten it right yet, as we've kind of swung from a more Montessori curriculum-centered approach to one that has the state standards more overlaid with Montessori. The major difference and improvement this time is that our curriculum maps are now not only rooted in the Georgia Standards of Excellence, but also they incorporate the framework of the state pacing guides and the Godot units. While we have learned that we do have some further adjustments to make this summer before next year, we have seen that this overarching structure of the units provides our public Montessori teachers, who have a very challenging job, helpful parameters to both guide their instructional planning and then also the pace of instruction. And finally, speaking of public Montessori, we are very proud to report robust and successful implementation of the Georgia Early Literacy Act at SEMSIS through the adoption of the Montessori Literacy Curriculum Supplemental Bundle. It's a mouthful. But, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. A statewide task force with the input of nationally known Montessorians, and of which our team was a part, spent a great deal of time assembling a bundle that would meet all of Godot's criteria for an approved supplemental bundle of high-quality instructional materials. We have rolled out all of the pieces of this curriculum this year: the Montessori Reading Acceleration Pathway, which we're supplementing by the Hegarty Phonemic Awareness Program, instructional level spelling, and the Montessori for All writing albums. You'll recall that you approved most of these items for use by Charles Ellis Montessori as well. Our staff has completely embraced, and is flourishing with the structured literacy professional development offered through the Georgia Literacy Academy and Cox Campus, and we have executed our universal screenings and our dyslexia risk screening. Taken as a whole, these efforts have been hugely constructive for both our students and instructional staff. Quick piece of data I would like to share comes from our Montessori Reading Acceleration Pathway, which we refer to as MRAP. It is a structured phonics scope and sequence that also includes phonemic awareness skills. It's designed in levels, and progress is measured in 6 data cycles, and growth in each cycle can lead a student who is below grade level in reading to progress 1.5 years in a 10-month school year. This year, because we had such significant weather closures, we will only be able to execute 5 cycles, but that will still allow for 1.25 years of growth for below grade level students. And the chart gives you an idea of what % of our students who have been or who still are behind have been able to move up at least 1 MRAP level per data cycle. And just for your information, we are using this program with kindergarten through 3rd grade at Tier 1, and with our 4th and 5th grade, our upper elementary students who are in MTSS and who have IEPs. I have also provided you with some iReady data from our students this year, which should give you a good idea of where they are in math and reading. The 2 columns of figures represent the percentage of students on grade level, as shown by the middle of the year iReady diagnostic given in December, as compared to the same percentage as shown by the iReady growth monitoring check given in February. In the interest of time, I will just highlight that the percentage in reading grew approximately 11 points in those 2 months, and the percentage in math increased by about 20 points. Finally, I'd like to wrap up by touching on some of our school-level priorities for the summer and into next year. It is a non-negotiable to us to focus on our school climate, always working to enhance our explicit school-wide use of our social-emotional learning curriculum, and consistently tie it to our PBIS system. Only in this way can we execute a holistic educational program that meets our standards and perpetuates a high climate star rating. Consistency will be strong because we will have high staff retention, with over 90% of our student-serving instructional staff returning. This staff momentum will support the SEMCO board's redesigned and trained committee structure, which will be instrumental in contributing to a collaborative and aligned approach to success in fulfilling the strategic plan. And adding to this collaborative effort will be our continued and new strategic partnerships. The Georgia Charter Schools Association with Phase 2 of our strategic monitoring, and Montessori partners, Public Montessori in Action, and Montessori Partnerships for Georgia with Montessori-anchored school improvement work. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Atlee to end our report for today.
Thank you, Ms. Stephanie. Chairman Morris, Dr. Watts, esteemed trustees. Last year, when I was before you, I asked you to please extend your lens a bit, if you can recall, and I provided you with a macro perspective update related to SEMCO's strategic planning and school improvement in relation to the 23-24 Chevron report and the then recent CIS designation. This year, it is therefore appropriate, I would suggest, to have you adjust your lens inward a bit to take a more granular look at the work that has been done to effectuate the improvement that I talked about would be done. There's an old saying that I can't hear what you're saying from seeing what you're doing. So I promise you then that there would be no happy talk, no excuses, no exceptions, just a 100% commitment to progress. So let's see what we have been doing from a governance perspective. You have a sheet. I'm going to ask you to turn to the data sheet there for a moment. Operational assessment conducted. Stephanie talked about that just a little bit, but let me share just a tad bit more about it. It was a deep dive analysis of our operations. We looked at, had a comprehensive operational analysis that covered key domains across the board: academics, governance, operations, and finances. And we used that to guide our strategic planning. Now, once that operational assessment was done, we just didn't take it and put it on a shelf in a book, nice book holders. We used it as our North Star. We use it as a way to develop our strategic plan. Well, we use it as coordinates, a GPS, to develop our strategic plan, and then took our strategic plan as our North Star. And in that strategic plan, we established 3 goals. Goal 1, to strengthen governance and leadership for long-term success. Goal 2, to elevate academic excellence, maintain Montessori integrity, and meet state accountability requirements. We aligned Montessori principles with state standards. We implemented a standards-based assessment system. And goal 3 was to foster meaningful community engagement. Now, board capacity. We completed governance training and evaluated open meeting compliance. In fact, the majority of our board members had many hours more than the required hours of training. We encouraged that. We did board self-assessment on capacity and diversity. We recruited 2 new board members and 2 non-board committee members. We developed a board bank, and in that bank we have trained prospective board members positioned and ready to come aboard. We have a physician, Dr. Ashley Booth, trained and ready to come on board. We have other folks, a discipline operations leader. We have 2 other additional folks beside them trained and ready to come on board. We restructured the Academic Excellence Committee and revamped the committee protocols. Stephanie alluded to that a tad bit. We added new members with standard-based instruction and assessment and Montessori experience. We grabbed one of your retired teachers and assistant principals on that committee. We have a state of Georgia reading specialist on that committee. We completed training on academic data analysis and oversight practices. We evaluated committee practices and identified areas to strengthen, and they are ready to implement. And then finally, we did deep changes to oversight and compliance practices. I won't read them all, but we developed a comprehensive academic dashboard for the ED to use for reporting. We are now also working on operations and finance, their dashboards. We reviewed leaks processes and other evaluations criteria for the ED. We modified the reporting structure and expectations. We hired consultants with the support of board educators to complete an academic implementation report aligned with the findings from our ops assessment and CSI. Last year, I also commenced my update to you by stating we had, quote, started the 23-24 school year with a heightened focus on a dual mission. One was to finalize the increasingly time-restricted and complicated preparation for movement into a new facility for the next school year, and two, to find the right formula, that sweet spot that Stephanie alluded to drive academic success within a Montessori pedagogical format. As to mission two, I submit that that data speaks for itself and that we are on the way to cracking that code for that sweet spot, as evidenced by the ED's update. As to mission one, unfortunately, we have not been able to finalize that transition to the new facility to date, and it looks now like we will not be able to until the fiscal 27 school year, all things considered. But we are getting there, thanks to Dr. Watts and her assistance with that process. But hope is eternal, although hope is not a strategy. For the first 15 years, and this is more so for you, Ms. Stephanie, I think the others might know, board member Stephanie. For the first 15 years of its existence, Coastal Empire has been operating as the only charter Montessori school in the entire state of Georgia. This single distinction was the fruit of visionaries here in Savannah and the progressive support and commitment of your 2005 predecessors on the Savannah-Chatham County School Board, that they were not constrained by the existing norms of the time. It was your 2005 board then and you now that provides SEMSIS with this awesome Montessori privilege to, as we say in the Montessori world, to educate the whole child for the world. This awesome privilege comes, however, with a parallel and awesome responsibility to those entrusted to our academic care, to their parents, to the citizens of Savannah and Chatham County, and of course to you, the grantor of our charter. Our commitment remains unwavering to make every effort, pursue every path, turn over every stone, and leave no opportunity untaken to continue to make us worthy of that trust that our stakeholders have placed in us for the past 17 years. We have wrapped around Stephanie with the support that she needs. We know that we're on the right track. Philosophically, if I were to go back 40 or 50 years ago in closing, in my Philosophy 101 class, I would think that we're at the stage now where we are bringing those truths we have found in the thesis together with the truth revealed in the antithesis, because we're searching for a synthesis. And we need to elevate and sustain our progress through that synthesis. I think we're on the right path. And I thank Dr. Watts and the team, Sakira, our new liaison, for being there to support us in this effort. We are open for questions.
All right. Dr. Hoskins-Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for your report and congratulations on your successes. I would like to draw attention to two things that I think are very positive and very notable. I especially appreciate the data presented from the Chevron report. Y'all know I love the Chevron report. Gonna love the Chevron report forever. But one of the things that we can see that's in the report is in the student achievement and growth, you have it for grades 4 and 5, and there's a figure that shows a green dot and a blue dot for people at home who don't look at this. And the more you move to the right, you're showing high growth. The more you move up, you're showing achievement. And what we know with learning and young people who are challenging, you can have high achievement but didn't grow any. You can have low achievement but grow a lot. And what I'd like to point out is that, especially in math, you're showing higher growth. And I know that that's challenging. You're showing good growth. And as you see growth, what we could see in the academic performance in the future would be closing the gaps. You struggled with closing gaps, but if you're having low achievement, then that is going to be difficult. So I just want to note that although those numbers are challenging and you're not getting the points that you would like in that area, it appears that you are on a pathway. And I know that takes a lot of effort. The other thing that I want to note is the board recruitment. It's hard to recruit for boards.
It is.
People are not trying to sign up for these unpaid full-time jobs that you are offering in board service. So I want to congratulate you in developing a model where you have not just a succession plan, but you have people who are waiting in the wings to support your work. I think that's very strong effort. I think it's visionary and commendable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Bringman?
Just a couple of clarification questions and then a final philosophical question. Your landing page has that you're providing Montessori education for K-5, but then the next thing down says pre-K through 5. My son went there for pre-K. Is it still pre-K? You still have pre-K classes?
Yes, our charter is officially K through 5, granted from K through 5, but we have the associated preschool. And in our model, we mix in those multi-age primary classrooms, one Georgia, right from the start pre-K class into the 3 primary
Okay.
rooms.
That's why it was confusing. Gotcha. And then we have old data, so I'm trying to figure out what your current enrollment is. We have 2023 numbers in our Chevron report, so I was trying to figure out what your current.
About 207.
207, okay. Y'all don't have a waiting list then in your lottery currently?
We do have a wait list for from last year's lottery, and we conduct next year's lottery on Thursday. So we haven't even done our lottery for next year yet.
Is it?
We
Okay.
are constrained by 2 things in our enrollment this year. By and large, the number one thing is facilities, which we won't belabor that point, but the second is the number of students who require tiered services, whether it be special education or MTSS, scaffolded support. I have deliberately held some of the class sizes in those inclusion classes mostly a little bit smaller so that we have a better chance, kind of like what Kevin said about Oglethorpe splitting the caseload or the number of students so that the teachers have more time and face time.
Okay, yeah, but Oglethorpe is meeting their contract, and they're like a handful of students away from their actual contract, where if you're at 207, you're almost like I could do the 389 is your contract. So you're on purpose not allowing parents that asked to go to SEMCAS now, not SEMCO, and telling them no so that you can try to deliver better education. That's a nice ability to do that and turn people away that are wanting to go to your school. The contract says 389.
Well, right, and I wasn't alluding to Oglethorpe, anything related to enrollment. It was specifically related to reducing the class size in order to help the students
But
progress.
they've reduced their class size and still maintained their contract obligation. You have reduced your class size to benefit students, but you're also not allowing individuals on your wait list to go to a charter school that they want to go to.
At a small degree, we have held that enrollment steady this year. However, 389 is a number from an 8-year-old charter contract that assumed enrollment projections based on facilities changes that haven't happened. We have, if I did not hold enrollment smaller in those classes, I would say that our enrollment could be about 215.
Okay, so in 2023, you were actually 218, so you were above what you want your projected to be.
218, that would work for me. With
The
last
the
year's.
Okay, I'll do some homework and figure out what the highest enrollment was. It's just interesting to me that the contract, we don't come up with the number. You tell us how big you want the contract to be, and that 2005 board said, okay, go for it. So contractually, we want you to be there because people in Chatham County want to send their children to a Montessori. We only have 2 options.
Right.
And we know the other one's sought after as well. So I hope that you get closer to that contract with the new facility. So final.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yep. Final question for Mr. Prince. I'm just trying to figure out what is your thesis and antithesis that you're speaking on? Because those are like really nebulous words that I can operationalize the definition, but what are your definitions of the truths you find in what is your thesis and what is your antithesis?
Okay. First of all, I was referring to a lesson from Philosophy 101, but I'll be glad to share that with you. Our thesis is centered around finding that sweet spot that help us fill in that gap between standard-based pedagogical teaching and Montessori. Okay. And we have now brought on board consultants from both perspectives to help us do that. But no one, I have even asked them, can they share with me or share with us some type of system, program to help us meet that, fill in that gap. Our pacing is different and things like that. So what I'm saying is that I think we know where we need to be. Okay. That's our thesis.
Okay.
I think on the other side where we are, this is our antithesis. Okay. In order for us to synthesize that, to come to a synthesis, you understand, we must bring those 2 together. And if we bring those 2 together, we'll be able to meet that sweet spot. And that should enhance our progress enhancement a lot.
Sounds good.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Yes, congratulations on excelling from CSI to CSI progress. That's good to show that you're showing gains. Could you just share with us what does your assistance from Godot and RISA look like? What type of activities or strategies that's going on to help with this?
Really, thank you for that question because it really has been something that we've embraced and has made a difference for every single person in the school because Dr. Jaquetta and Ms. Ann truly have become family members. There are 2 main prongs of support. One is in leadership and effective leadership, and then the other one is in coherent instruction. And those are 2 of the structures that the Comprehensive Support and Improvement Program focuses on, along with supportive learning environment, professional development. And so really we have worked on using those best practices to build a framework to improve. The 2 main things that we've improved, I would say, are a collaborative planning process for our teachers, going all the way back to improving instructional planning, seeing that through to execution in the classroom, and then looking at data to really operationalize that data-driven improvement cycle. And then some other processes like the development and implementation of an effective leadership team to help build capacity in things like consensual decision-making and multifaceted input and ownership and leadership building in our staff, and then the embrace of the professional development, especially this year in structured literacy, as I touched upon. And lastly, just the access that those ladies have been able to provide for us outside of our little green bubble over there on Buckhalter Road. You know, teaching and running a school is extremely consuming. And so to be able to reach a hand out and have someone grab it to provide advice and help has been really transformative.
Ms. Campbell?
Facility question a minute. If I might address this facility question a minute. I'm thinking that the 389 number, I'm fairly new to the board, is new to me, the 389 capacity number. I'm wondering what's that number, because we just don't have the modules. We need modules. We don't have the modules to accommodate that, period, once. And secondly, the transportation, when the transportation was taken away, that critically reduced the number of students because a lot of parents just didn't have the transportation. But we'll be glad to address that 389 number and even more once we move to the new facility.
Ms. Campbell?
Congratulations on your climate star, your climate rating, the 4 stars. That's exceptional. 2 questions. What SEL program you spoke to? Your use of that as being helpful. What is the program that you guys use?
We use Second Step.
Second Step. Okay.
Right, and that comes with a core curriculum and also a child prevention unit and an anti-bullying curriculum that we implement throughout the year school-wide.
Okay. Other statement question. In the accelerated pathways, that seems to really be working for you guys. I mean, even in math where it was significantly lower, it's very impressive, the numbers. One question I do have is for the middle of year percentage of students on grade level, it kind of goes, if I'm going from 1st to 5th grade, there's a giant leap in the middle of the year 3rd grade reading level. What do we know what caused that, and what did they do right? And maybe in 2nd grade?
I think that there are 2 things that are kind of similar. One is by the middle of the year that structured phonics scope and sequence has really started to take hold, and we were able to, we actually have used MRAP for a couple years, but we this year decided to steal it from Tier 2. We used to use it as an intervention and pull it down to Tier 1 as part of the supplemental bundle, and then add the spelling and writing components to it. So I think part of that is just simply seeing that work at Tier 1. And then the other thing is allowing the curriculum to just kind of catch up to the testing. And I think that that's some of what you really see in math. I think it was the 4th grade math that had a really big
Like
jump.
40% almost
And,
jump, yeah.
you know, the kind of initial response was from the teacher, I finally got to teach what is actually on the test. Just that time to get into the year, you know how many stops and starts we had in first semester. We really lost a ton of time. We did implement 2 makeup days at our school because we just wanted every little bit back that we could get. But I think the middle of the year testing was where we finally saw that all just right-sizing itself.
And is that why, bringing it to the 1st tier, did that just start this year? So
Yes.
if we see in 4th grade, so again, the 3rd grade was impressive. And then 4th and 5th kind of drops down again. Is that because it had just started to be implemented in 1st tier?
Yes, and because with MRAP specifically, that's a K-3 structured literacy phonics scope and sequence. And so what we're doing is utilizing that based on the success that we've had at Tier 2, and then what we thought would be best practice from K-3 to use that with our students who are behind in the upper elementary, but then also making sure that they are receiving all of the rest of the instruction, both Montessori literacy lessons and then also that standards-based instruction in reading comprehension. That's obviously a biggie, and writing.
So the hope then is, now that you've implemented it in K through 3, we'll start seeing the gains going down.
Yes,
Got it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. All right. We have one more thing. Going over a little bit today, but we need to. We definitely need this report. So next is our budget process update from the Board of Assessors update.
Well, I've got a 3-hour presentation prepared. I can try to trim it down. I know I was in a hurry here. Let me get this going here real quick. All right, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Corey Gillenwater, and I serve as the Chief Appraiser for the Chatham County Board of Assessors. And I'm here today to talk to you all a little bit about what we saw in 2024. So what we do is property valuations. So we'll take you through some things that we saw in 2024. So a bit about who we are. We're about 70 staff members large. We have several different divisions that we break out these different things on. We have a residential division, commercial division, personal property division for boats, aircraft, business assets. And we also have a support services division that handles property transfers, homesteads, and most of our clerical tasks. But it takes a lot of us to get this particular job done. So what is it that we actually did last year? So this is a breakdown by individual taxing jurisdictions of how the value was allocated across the county. And important to note that when we talk about the values, digest values, we're talking about the 40% assessed value. So not fair market. This is 40% of those values, and that's your taxable value, if you were. So you can see unincorporated definitely still has the highest amount with $30.5 billion, followed close by Savannah at almost $27 billion. And then we see it taper off, pull her down there, $8 billion. And then our friends at Vernonburg with a whopping $98.4 million. They still matter. So this is how that, it's tiny, it's tiny. They're clawing back now. I've heard some things. I'm not going to go into it. Very nice houses out there. I had the pleasure of growing up down the street from there. So what does this look like year to year in its totality? So this is not the way I wanted to show it. The pages are kind of split up here, but I'll walk you through it. So we'd like to do a little bit of a 5-year comparison. So things that call out to us are the overall market value. That's that second row there. We'll just hop on over here to this sheet here. So we can see for the past several years, certainly I'm sure the pandemic helped out a bit with that, but as much as things came to a halt in certain places, property values went way up. And a lot of that comes from people moving in, new construction, people buying and selling homes. That's going to be really 100% of the information that we use to develop that tax digest. So we can see in 2024, $74 billion fair market, which is about $29.5 billion assessed values. Well, we can go down a couple of rows there and see the blue row there, you got a 741 in 2021. Those are new homes built. So we can look at that through the years. And 2024 was definitely a banner year in terms of just the new homes that were built. And you can see below that, number of parcels that we have are also increasing. Last year, we added about 2,000 parcels. This year, we're actually on track to have added about 2,500 parcels. So the county continues to grow, but the rate at which it is growing is also going up as well. The number down there at the very bottom are our personal property accounts. Again, these are business asset accounts, marine boats, and certainly some aircraft as well. So that's kind of the county overall there that we're looking at. But we'll drive down into some details. So a couple of things that I want to go over before I jump into this particular slide here is, I mentioned that we had a lot of new parcels come online last year. These are going to be splits from large acre tracts into smaller ones that are then developed. Sometimes you have combinations of some tracts for maybe some commercial development. We've heard for years now that we're going to see a reduction in the market, that the market's going to start to go down. Last year, we observed that there were fewer sales, but interestingly enough, the sale prices actually went up about 11% year over year. So fewer sales, certainly, but the asking price and the selling price of what has sold continues to go up. And as those market values go up, so do our assessments follow along with that. So I want to talk a little bit about our support services division. This is just an outline of what took place last year. Homestead applications is a big part of our process. April 1st just came to a conclusion. Last year we took right at 4,790. We have exceeded over 5,000 this year for different interests that have been in the paper. I'm sure House Bill 581 certainly enlightened people a bit about what's out there, what's available. Property transfers, again, it was down, but we still had almost 12,600 property transfers. And then permits, this is going to be a lot of that's new construction. Some of it could be things that don't necessarily mean a whole lot in our processes, such as fencing and the like, but they're still part of our nature to go out there and inspect. So we're looking at about 9,371, which actually itself was a decrease. So we're hearing about things slowing down a little bit, but the values themselves, what's actually changing hands, is going up. Interesting way to look at that. All right, so in our residential division, so we're talking about 122,000 parcels across the whole county. 110,000 and a half of those are all residential properties, so it's by far our biggest division. So we can see on the left side there, that's our permits by municipality. Savannah had a huge increase in the number of permits they issued, and most of our new homes that we saw were Savannah areas. And of course, you've got the traditional Savannah area that we all know and love. We also have reaches in the West Chatham, where a lot of that area is also Savannah. So Savannah had a tremendous amount of growth just in their permit activity. Unincorporated followed not long behind it. And then we can see Pooler is another heavy hitter in permits as well. And not to be outdone, and we see that growth again this year. Port Wentworth actually has a good number of the new homes that we saw built last year. So that new construction turns into value. So on the right-hand side over there, you can see how that's broken out by different jurisdictions. Verneberg with a whopping 0. I'm sorry to pick on them, but we're talking about 382 million fair market just in terms of new construction. So when we talk about the tax digest, we have reassessments for existing things, and we have new things that were added. In just new construction, we're talking about $382 million for residential alone. So commercial, industrial, we're talking about our hospitality, hotels and the like. We didn't see a whole lot of really big changes across our markets throughout the year. The biggest thing that we saw was the influx of warehouses. One thing that was very interesting, you've all been down 16, I'm sure, and seen the new mega structures that are going up. What we saw in terms of the buying and selling of these is people seem to be so eager to find warehouse space in the county that what was selling for brand new warehouses was the same as what was selling for very old warehouses. And location didn't seem to be that much of a factor. As long as it was here in Chatham County and close to some major thoroughfare, they were all kind of their own same market. But you got your mega warehouses, you've got your storage warehouses, there's different types. But across all of them, we saw just significant activity. The buying and the selling, and certainly the development and the completion of multiple projects. We're looking at about $230 million in new construction for our commercial properties. So to kind of back into that a bit more, when we combine our commercial and industrial, so our big warehouses, manufacturing, new construction and commercial was about $454 million. So you kind of see we're really approaching about $1 billion in digest values just from new construction alone. And you can see on the left side over there that we have just some permit activity there. Again, Savannah, Pooler, Garden City, Port Wentworth, all going strong. And the thing to note about these permits is even when you see perhaps decreases in the amount of commercial permits, keep in mind these are multi-year projects that are coming to completion. So you might see permits go down, but new construction go up as certain projects come to completion. So if you see that, and let's kind of funny, that's one of the reasons why you can see changes like that. Much faster to build a new house than it is to put up a new warehouse. So personal property division, we have 26,530 accounts. Some of those are aircraft, some of those are boats, but by far the lion's share are going to be our businesses with their business assets. Think along the lines of inventory, any furniture and fixtures that would go along with that. This is not real estate, it is personal property. That's not to say it's your personality, such as things you own in your home. These are assets that are acquired to operate a business. And they have to return those to us, and they are certainly big parts of the digest. If anybody's ever heard of the Freeport exemption, you know that personal property is a huge impact on the digest. So as much as we like to finish our digest and get everything out, people still have the right to contest our values, and they certainly do. So this is just a little graph to show how that's changed throughout the year. So 2020, not a lot of complaints came our way. But as the digest grows in value and as our population grows and the number of parcels we have also grows, so also do our appeal counts grow. And you can see that there, 4,000 appeals just from residential. I had one staff member who actually had 500 appeals, whereas normally it's about 200. So we're kind of seeing it really all across the board. But we had the staff to take care of it, and we don't shy away from a challenge to our evaluation processes. We feel confident, but we're willing to step in and explain our processes and how we got there. So the appeal process is an imperative part of making sure that we have the credibility we like to have. So a couple of timelines that we have. We're past April 1st now, but this is when that homestead deadline happens. We've got over 5,000. We're still getting that final total. We do take online homesteads as well, and that's kind of what's still hanging out there. I think we got about 1,000 applications just using our online portal as well. July 1st is the deadline for us to mail out our notices for any given year. We normally have those out in the middle of May, but there are some changes in legislation this year courtesy of House Bill 581 and House Bill 92 that may have an impact on that. That notice template is changing with some new information. Whenever we send those out, there's a 45-day period that people can utilize to appeal that property value. Then, of course, the submission of the tax digest, we have until September 1st to get that done. Traditionally, we had that submitted the first week of August, and we certainly aim to keep that timeline. So you've heard me mention a couple of times things about the digest. These are just some of our online tools, but I'm going to skip ahead because I know you guys have other stuff to do. Some information just about the school board's digest. This is information that we prepare and submit to your finance folks. But there was once upon a time that it was an eyebrow raiser to see a 1% increase in the digest year to year. That was a pretty big deal. Last year, Board of Education's digest increased 11.12%. That's quite the increase. Now, I don't have any 2025 numbers to talk with you about today, but if you could imagine a world where the digest stays flat, it would still be this 11.12% increase over 2 years ago. So just some information about that to kind of back into residential. We saw almost a 14% increase year-to-year digest. Let's see, commercial, we saw a 10.5%. Industrial, those are our warehouse guys, we saw a 21.25% increase. So we're seeing increases in just about every facet of what it takes to develop that digest. Not just one individual component drives that. So as much as we see value in residential, we see value everywhere. And that, again, comes from things that are added and things that are reassessed through different market studies that we do. The buying and selling drives that focus and interest. But I'm sure you all have some questions about what I've talked about today, so I'm happy to take them at this time.
Ms. Hall.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want you to talk a little bit about what actually goes into your assessment and how many of your challengers win. Or is it you can challenge or you won, but
well, I would say, well, the first part of your question probably is a workshop we should have one day of what goes into an assessment. There's a pretty good bit that goes into that, but maybe an easier way to think about that is the value comes from what it is, how big it is, what it's made of, how well maintained it is, and perhaps more importantly from a market approach, where it is. And one way to think about that is if you have a house that was built in 1950, it's average quality, it's a Tobby, it's going to sell way higher there than if you put that same house somewhere else in the county. So where it is a huge factor to determine what that value of that property is going to be. But probably the easiest way to think about it is what materials was it made with and how big is it? And that's generally going to be consistent across all forms of assessment. But in terms of challengers and winning, I would say winning is pretty subjective. There are...
I tried, I didn't win.
We have one satisfied customer over here to my right. But no, there's we go before the BOE along with the appellants and the Board of Education. I'm sorry, Board of Equalization. That's not y'all. Don't mean to confuse. We say BOE too much in my office, but I would say there tends to be at least some kind of reduction in value. Now, if we have a small reduction in value, we consider that a win for us. But it's really up to the appellant to determine, did they get what they were looking for? So one thing that's important with the appeal process is somebody can assert what they believe that property value should be. And what that does is it puts us on notice when we get that, because we're before a BOE, and they look at that and say, well, this person says that they feel like this property is valued this, but you guys have it here. How come? And one of the ways we go about that is we illustrate the different comparable properties that we think sold comparable to that particular property. And they have to be pretty uniform for us to be able to say it's a good comparable. For example, you wouldn't be able to take a mansion that's downtown and compare it to any Puller property, for example. They have to actually be comparable in what they are. They can't just be homes. That's not a good enough comparison. So we isolate things down to different market areas. And when we have an appeal in that market area, we pull sales from that market area that we use to develop that assessment. But with any property value, there's a range that it could fall in. You know, not every property that sells for the exact same, say, price per square foot. So we're going to go up, we're going to present our findings, we're going to present what that range could be. And for us, a win is it didn't go down too much. If it goes down some, we're okay with that. We're okay with any change. There's processes in place for us to continue a challenge if we feel like it's unfair for us or a little bit too much. But that's a long answer to say that the terms of victory for the appellant is really kind of up to them to decide what that means for them. But I would imagine you didn't, maybe you didn't quite feel so victorious.
No hard feelings. Mainly, I like what Ms. Hall said about having a workshop or something on it, even if we could virtual in. I think just so we understand, since no one's physically on the property, you see a giant, and when I say giant leap, I mean appreciable leap. And again, if you're doing it based on comparable properties, you know.
Right, and I like that you mentioned that we're not there on the property, because there is a bit that goes along with that as well. So we're legally required to visit physically every property every 3 years. Mm-hmm. But properties buy and sell every year. So you're right, there may be some increases that would come along in a year which we didn't visit that property. But when we visit the property, we're not there to look at the nature of the sale. We're there checking to make sure that the property we have in its attribute data in our system is the same or unchanged. And there are reasons that we visit properties at different times than just that 3-year cycle. Permits, we have to go physically inspect those. And even sales can come along with that. So imagine that we have a vacant lot valued at, say, $40,000, and we get a property sale for that property that's $400,000, and we go, we must not have some information right about this particular property, and sometimes we go visit it, and boom, there's a house. So there are certain times that trigger us to go out there and do different things in the field, but that probably is maybe a good workshop opportunity for us to talk through what those assessments are. I actually did a recent workshop with the city of Savannah for those folks that are looking to acquire liquidity in property ownership, and it's something I'd be happy to do as well for anybody who's interested.
It seems to me that, one, if you live in a neighborhood where there aren't many sales, where families have been there for decades and decades, then that's going to stagnate, you know, because you don't get that sale comparison. But I also wonder, what's the incentive to keep your property, other than your own personal ethics? What's the incentive to keep your property in a pristine condition if, in fact, it all depends on, you know, everything that's around you? If you have a store, a commercial entity a block away. I'm trying to think in terms of building our neighborhoods and keeping them crime-free and with curb appeal. What's the incentive if no matter what you do at your property, it doesn't really matter? What matters is what's going on all around it.
Well, maybe we can depart from assessment a little bit there, and I can just talk about what it means to me as a property owner. I know that if I let my grass get too high, I don't feel like a man. I know that if I let my things outside get out of whack and my house looks bad, that I don't feel like I have pride in what I do. I don't feel like it reflects well on me. So one incentive is personal.
Yeah, that's
You know,
what
I walk
yeah, I know
outside, this
that.
is my home, this is the place I purchased, I'm raising my family in there. There's certainly a personal incentive to have a quality of life, and that's within your control. But maybe you could educate me more into what maybe you were thinking of different incentive types could be.
Well, something that it's more individual in terms of the actual assessment on a home, other than whether or not the person across the street keeps his yard up. I'm looking at ways for people who want to stay and not necessarily sell their homes, but just want to stay there. And it just doesn't seem much encouragement comes from home assessments because so much is out of your personal control. That's all. I guess that's just a statement I'm making.
So I'm going
We
to,
need a work.
yes. So we will look into doing the workshop.
Sure.
Thank you.
That sounds great. Other
Anyone else?
questions?
By the way, I just want to clear the air. I understand that you win some, you lose some. And also that it's kind of a catch, right? Because then if someone comes out and you have really kept your property, then you could also have an increase that you didn't foresee because they find something, an addition or whatever, you know, that wasn't included. So I appreciate what you do.
There could be some things like that, yeah. And just to illustrate, too, that not every change comes from those things. We have cost schedules that we subscribe to every year from Marshall and Swift. They're big in real estate. And those change every year. Not significantly, but they do change a little bit. But as much as things may change in value in terms of what it takes to keep it up and what it costs out to be, things do get old and depreciate. So values change for a good number of reasons, but the incentive may be something we can talk about maybe more deeply in a workshop and give me a chance maybe to understand more of what you're asking about, and we can approach it from maybe your perspective. Absolutely.
Thank you. Dr. Brinkman?
I have to end on this joke because
my
it's just a theme of the year. In the words of John Fogerty of Creedence Clearwater Revival, when the tax man comes, Lord, the house will look like a rummage sale. So that's how you keep your values down.
Well, let me be clear, I'm not the tax man. We don't bill, we don't collect, we just value. But I'm glad I didn't use any big words you were going to ask me about. I was kind of nervous there for a second. Other
you very
questions?
much.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. All right. I will accept the motion that we go into executive session.
Or legal matters, personnel,
We'll say
and safety, and real estate. I so move.
back and move in a second. All in favor? Thank you.